Barbados Radio.
Believe it.
Welcome to Elevate Entrepreneur, a program designed by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. My name is Yvette Maynard, and I will be conducting a series of interviews to showcase the entrepreneurs in our midst who are doing exceptional things. This morning, thank you. I'm pleased to welcome to our first interview Joseph Onesimus Tudor, who's the Group Brand Manager of BMW here in Barbados. Welcome, Joseph.
Well, it's a bit of a surprise, but you are obviously very, very well welcome in my office.
Thank you very much.
It is a pleasure to be working with you.
Thank you very much.
On the program.
Thank you. Joseph, we are here to speak about entrepreneurship. It has been the buzzword for a while now, and I thought it was extremely fitting to interview someone such as you who wears so many hats, but wears them very effectively. I've known you for a while.
Quite a while, yeah.
Yes, and I have always dreamed of interviewing you, showcasing your talents, letting our viewers see that entrepreneurship is really the way to go. Who really is Joseph Tudor? Can you tell us, please?
Well, you know, it is interesting that you would ask me about entrepreneurship because I wear so many hats. Some political, some spiritual, and some business ones. But to be quite honest with you, I think that I am from a family of entrepreneurs, dating back to the early entry of the Tudors into Barbados. You would appreciate that I am from a long line of Tudors. I am actually Joseph Tudor 11.
The 11th?
The 11th in Barbados.
Wow.
And I am Joseph Onesimus Tudor III. Now it's a very interesting history to the Tudors because you would be aware that in Bridgetown there's a street called Tudor Street.
Yes.
The reason why Tudor Street was named, it was actually named after my great-grandparents.
I never made the connection.
Who were major traders in Bridgetown. And they would have called the street after Tudor Street. And then of course my grandfather, who was J.O. Tudor, he was in Robert Street, and he would have had one of the largest wholesale food centers back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, where he would have traded in dry goods, and he obviously would have traded in rum. He had a rum called Brazilian rum in Barbados. You might not have heard of that, but you would have been extremely appealing on the label.
Well, thank you so much.
But that was, in fact, I think a rum that was very prominent in Barbados even before Bombay rum, or at about the same time that there was Bombay rum. So I have come out of a family that is very steeped in trading and entrepreneurship. And of course, when I think it's important to point out that I am from a family that is of a mixed race between the European connection and an African connection. My grandparents, going back to the period just before emancipation, Henry Joseph Tudor would have fallen in love with a lady, an African lady called Laura FPW, and she was a free black woman. And the two of them had 4 children, but she would have acquired the name Tudor and children, which was, she had John Tudor, Joseph Tudor, which was my great-grandfather, and then she would have had 2 girls called Mahissa Bell and Sarah Jane. Now, those families were now of a mixed race, but the 2 girls, they married white Barbadians. One married Chandler, and the other married, I don't remember the other name, the other, but there was then Joseph Tudor and John Tudor. And you would recall that the John Tudor section of the family, just after the period of emancipation, would have been spread into another famous Tudor, which would be James A. Tudor. And you would recall that there's a roundabout in Barbados commemorating James A. Tudor and the late Sir James Tudor, who played a very prominent role in the politics of Barbados, and who would have been very much part of the Tudor dynasty in terms of trading. The James A. Tudor, the J.O. Tudor, traded between Baxter's Road, Tudor Bridge, Tudor Street, Robert Street, and there's a long tradition of trading. Now, in my own professional life, I absolutely enjoy trading. It is a natural field for me, even though my father had an opportunity to inherit the trading genes of his grandparents, but he preferred to perform as Joe Tudor on the stage in Barbados. And it was in those days considered extremely infertile for a man of his ilk to be involved in comedy and not trading. I mean, that was bad news for the family. You know, here is somebody who wants to entertain rather than to stick to the basics of the family, that is to be an entrepreneur and to trade. That was a little difficult for me because from a very young boy, I wanted to emulate what my grandfather used to do. And I always yearned to continue the business. But the break with my dad would have forced me into other areas of activity in my life. And certainly then when I left Congress School in the 1960s, I was a little confused as to what I wanted to do or what I did not want to do. So I did venture into a number of different areas. I first of all sought training in the Army in Jamaica, and I did have extensive Army training in Jamaica, but that was a little rough, and I thought that it was not kind of like that I really wanted to endure, because it's not easy when you're sitting and you witness close friends in battle, and I actually witnessed one being killed in Jamaica in front of me, and it was an unpleasant experience, very unpleasant. So I left the Army life, and I came out to Barbados and got involved in aviation, and I spent a number of years working with the aviation, in the aviation party at the airport here, and I ended by managing Air Canada at the airport. And then politics started to get into it because I had this passion through being involved with the Barbados Workers Union in industrial relations and in terms of fighting for the rights of individuals, better working conditions, better pay, and you know, making sure that we were paid for overtime and things like that. I became a very big supporter of the Barbados Workers Union, and I ran for office, became the vice president for a short period of the Barbados Workers Union, and then I was elected as the president of the Airline and Allied Workers Division of the Barbados Workers Union. And they, of course, would have provided me an opportunity to have extensive training in labor, the development of labor and industrial relations. And up to this day, that has served me well because I still have a passion to serve and to make sure that people are being prepared in the Barbados society. So I started to go in several different directions. And of course, being involved in the union, I of course then ended up as a candidate in political life. And it's a period of my life that I can't say that I thoroughly enjoyed, because it was hard. The economy was on the brink of stress, economic stress. And I entered after a very strong performance by Dr. Don Blackman, who was, in my opinion, one of the great political leaders that this country has experienced. Of course, I have tremendous admiration for Sir Grantley Adams and Tom Adams, who incidentally my immediate cousins. Yeah. And they're Sir Grantley and Tom Adams, the two Premier and the late Prime Minister. They, of course, were part of the Tudor Adams family. And that's another story in terms of going into the whole split of the families where one would have formed the Barbados Labour Party, or both of them would have been part of the Barbados Labour Party, and then the Tudor group emerged as part of the Democratic Labour Party group, and I of course was left in the middle, but I'm not so sure if I am a B or a D, right? But the point is, I am a representative of the people of Barbados, and I grew up understanding that we had to serve and be part of a responsible dispensation that sees after the needs of people. Now, I said that was a difficult time in my life, because when you come into an office or political office and you have a constituency where over 70 or over 2,000 people are laid off in these small environments, it is painful, because there are several households then that are without jobs, without food, without basic amenities. And of course I would have had a challenge, because many of the members of the constituency were not fully trained, and were general workers, basically in the Ministry of Transport and Works and so forth. And I had to make sure that a lot of the individuals got trained in different disciplines. There were 52 different disciplines being offered at the time through the Barbados Training Program. And I got many of my constituents to sign up for those courses. And that challenge took me into having a passion for the training of individuals. And I then, of course, will become the chairman of the Samuel Jackman Preston Polytechnic, the deputy chairman of the Barbados Vocational Training Board, and of course, when we were trying to establish the University College of Barbados, I was one of the co-chairs of setting up and doing the legislation to prepare Barbados for the advent of University College of Barbados. Along that path, I would have encountered the advent of having to establish this psychology college, and I would have joined with a school out of Denver in Colorado, which had the experience of preparing online courses and on a platform that was able to be used by individual colleges for the provision of psychology courses. And that was a tremendous experience for me, because at the time the government of Barbados, and certainly within the Caribbean, have been thinking of using modern technology to reach and to prepare the Caribbean people for educational development. And it was expensive, it was extremely expensive. And I do recall going to conferences in the United States, and I was angry that when you go to the United States, that here's a country that provides a lot of money for the advent of education, but yet all around the United States, where they have so many different cultures, they do not reach out to help small marginalized countries or even other countries in the development of education. We of course have been tied for many, many years to the British format of education. But here in the United States, we're using modern tools to access a platform that you can then broadcast to the rest of the world, or make a course available to the rest of the world. We have a scenario where we just could not afford it, because to set up a platform like that would cost something like $30 million. So here I am, wanting to make sure that Barbadians have the opportunity for online learning, and I'm confronted with a bill of $30 million without a single cent. So I went to a conference, and where there was this donor agency, Sloan, the Sloan Foundation, and at the plenary where I saw that grants were given out to several people, I made a very angry plea. Probably the second angry plea that I made. I made one also in Mauritius, and the plea was basically that, look, you're in the United States, you have a lot of resources that are not available to us, and I think that it is important that you treat the Caribbean, which we are in the belly because of our geographical location. I say we are small but effective, and we can certainly play a major role in modeling or doing a model on certain topics based on research and so forth. So you have to help us. I need help. I need some money. And I said that at the plenary session at the closing of that conference. And the president of the conference came and met me. And he said, well, who are you? Because I told him that it was a wicked and malignant act to ignore Barbados. And I said that. I said, but you all must, the American people, you all must reach out. And he said I had a lot of courage. And he said that he's going to help me. And he said that I should go to Denver, Colorado. And I should link with a company called eCollege, which had a massive plan, and they have access to courses, about 40, 50 different courses in many languages that you can prepare through a content management, these courses, and then you can have your own platform in this case, SJPP's format, and then you can actually teach online. And I must say that up to this day, those things are still happening. Now, the Caribbean government, they had set up CKLN, which was the network for knowledge learning. And they wanted to do the same thing in conjunction with the University of West Indies. That took a lot longer to do. But I did work, I went to North Dakota and met with some other University of North Dakota. And I met with several professional online providers in North Dakota. And I was given a business model, which was a pay as you grow. In other words, we paid a platform fee of say $20 or $30 per student. And that student was able to go online, register for the course, and then it was affordable. Because given the circumstances, here you have a scenario where the country has no money really to provide this kind of support, and yet you're asking for that kind of support and people volunteering. One guy who gave me a management model that was worth about $500,000, and he gave it to us for free. I mean, it was a tremendous module, business module, that we used then to access the learning in Barbados. When it came to Barbados, we also had the Center for Management Development, and they started to use the platform, and now the University of West Indies has taken that up, and they're now using Moodle and these other programs, right? So, and then, of course, through all of that, where I was involved in government and in education and so forth, I wanted to trade. And
it was still in your blood.
It was still in my blood. And being in cabinet, I did say to my cabinet colleagues one day, you know, I am going to leave cabinet, and I am going to sell BMW cars. And I don't think that my cabinet colleagues took me seriously, but I really wanted to do exactly that.
Wow.
And I ended up now for the last 17 years, I made all of the other activities that I'm involved in, that I of course, also selling cars.
You see what happens when you put it out into the atmosphere? It becomes a reality.
It becomes a reality, yeah, you know, and entrepreneurship is something that you have to have the passion for it. And I think that in Barbados, we have a tourism industry here. And with the advent of the tourism industry, there are so many opportunities, there are so many little things that you can do. You have a scenario now in Bridgetown. Bridgetown, Barbados is a beautiful country. Very, very beautiful country. Probably the best weather that you could have anywhere in the world. And I mean, and we have bragging rights.
Of course
we have so many visitors that pay lump sums of money to establish homes in Barbados. You will be aware of the magnificent Gold Coast that we have here in Barbados. I mean, the sea, the sun. I mean, when you get up in the morning and you go into the sun and you feel that warmth. Not only with the people, but I mean the atmosphere. You say, but my God, this is a place that God is never on earth. Yeah. You know, and there are so many opportunities in the kind of environment. I really did not enjoy the fact that we were part of a colonial period where the masses of people in this country were subjected to working with in the agriculture belt, namely in sugarcane. And I did speak briefly about one of my outbursts that I had in politics, and that took place in Mauritius, where there were several heads of government, certainly who formed Commonwealth, or over the 82 countries that form the Commonwealth. And in Mauritius, there was a presentation by the World Trade Organization directors, and they were suggesting that in their presentation that the world must accept that there will be white people and there will be black people, that there will be people with telephones and that there will be people without telephones, that some people will be rich and some people will be poor, some people will have a lot of food and some people will not have food, some people will have housing and some will not have housing. Now that angered me, because I mean we have a whole mix of communism, capitalism, we have a mixture of all kinds of strategies for the world. But it annoyed me that we were subject to the slave trade, where the colonial masters of the day under the Commonwealth of Barbados, with the British Empire at the time, that they can come to the Caribbean and set us up in the Caribbean with these one crops, sugarcane in Barbados, rice in Guyana, bananas in St. Lucia and St. Vincent, Grenada nutmegs, and basically to put the black masses of people in the fields. Now, I felt that was wrong. And I asked for the floor at the conference in Mauritius. And one of the best feelings I've ever had, where I was able to vent and tell them how I felt about the colonial masters, what they did to the people of the Caribbean. Because their attitude was that they're black, they're poor, so we could treat them as they like. They not only sold us, but they also then decided the type of work that we should have. And I feel proud, as I explained before, where my grandmother would have been a free black woman. She must have been a beautiful woman. Because her husband, when I read his will to her, said, I bequeath to my beloved Lord, in whom I absolutely adore and love, all of my funeral furnishings, all of my horses, all of my chariots, I give to you. All of the lands that I possess in Barbados, I give them to you, my beloved, in whom I entirely love dearly.
Wow.
A beautiful will. A beautiful will. So when you understand the dignity that she brought to us after the period of emancipation, how I resented the fact that we had to be looked at or looked on as if we were just simply black slaves or just people who just don't matter. We live, we give us some food, and we die. But we have not made our mark on society. We have not created a Barbados that people can really say, what a wonderful life. We live at a good standard of living, and we must enjoy the best. And when I look around Barbados today and I see Barbadians driving BMW cars, I feel that my life's work really has started to work. Because from whence we have come, and now we are in this environment where we live in the best. I mean, that is pure pleasure. And if I can say that, I get joy out of being an entrepreneur in the fact that we have made progress on people that once we would never have been able to dream of enjoying this kind of lifestyle. Believe me, I am happy the fact that we're here. And it's not to say that there's not a lot of work still to be done. But in our development within Barbados and in the Caribbean, we still need to have this entrepreneurial spirit, where there is a lot of development still to take place. But it must not be restricted to one individual or two individuals. And our challenge now as entrepreneurs is to share the load of the development that has to take place in the Caribbean. This development must go on. And to be quite honest with you, I don't think that that many of the governments in the Caribbean understand that collectively, as a people, that we have to stop believing that we have to import everything from the United States. In Barbados and within the Caribbean, there are over 180 products in food, in clothing, in building materials, and so forth. In essence, we can simply do our development in Barbados without having to import from Europe or from the United States or from anywhere. But we have the ability to produce all the food that we need. We have the ability to have the most beautiful fish. Fish is a wonderful diet for the Caribbean. And in the Caribbean, whether it is from the langoustine, the lobsters, the crayfish, the dolphin, the red snapper, we have the best fish in the world available in the Caribbean. Right? In beautiful waters, we have certainly in terms of ground provisions. If you would notice that in Barbados, we have over 140 Barbadians who are over 100 years old. And if you interview them and talk to them, they will tell you that they eat edos, breadfruit, cassava, corn, and they use all of these products. But you know what? We always have this feeling, but that ain't good enough. We prefer something out of a thing that has been preserved and sent here from the United States.
I don't know how long it will have been.
You don't know how long it was stored in there,
yeah.
And it is not organic, it is not natural. I mean, think about it logically. We have what it takes for our Caribbean people to have a good life, to enjoy the best of foods, the best of fish. We have the black belly sheep that I'm told is the best sheep in the world. And why are we not taking up the challenge of being entrepreneurs in our own rights and demanding our place in history? You know, so this is where I see my life. So I took a long time to explain who you were.
But we have got confirmation that hard work really does pay. How did you transition from the politician to being the brand manager of BMW?
But actually, I'm not so sure if it was a transition, because there's a very fascinating history to me. I entered the world of work in 1967, 68, somewhere over there, right? And I've never called in sick. I've never taken a day off. And in politics, I was elected to Parliament 10 years, and I never took a day off. I don't call in sick. I don't like to be late. I'm serious. It maybe is a little abnormal, but I suspect that if I started to take a day off, I might die. so there's some degree of superstition that I continue to work. And one of my daughters said to me recently, you know, I'm afraid that if he does stop working, that he will die. And being an asthmatic, you know, I was supposed to die when I was 3 months old. I was supposed to die when I was 7. They said I wouldn't live to 7. Then they said that I wouldn't live to be a teenager. And then I wouldn't see 21, but I just wouldn't die. So I guess that working, you know. Yeah. And you know, one thing about me is that I speak my mind in terms of how I see life and how I see fairness for people. I am not I went to Commonwealth School, and God bless Commonwealth School, because I think that at Commonwealth they prepared students for a rounded life. Yeah. We had sophisticated schools in Barbados, like Harrison College and Queen's College, kind of elite in the structure. But at Commonwealth, you were taught to be humble, remain on the ground, and learn as much as you can. I do not boast to be the brightest spark around, but I do have a strong sense of purpose of why I am here on earth. And you would have seen, or you know me very well, and you know that I come from a very strong Christian background, where I was part of the Anglican Synod. And in the Anglican Church, I played a major role at the cathedral with the dean, and I used to attend services 3-4 times on Sundays growing up, and I actually wanted to be a priest. When between the funeral home that is the children's funeral home and being a priest, I grew up in the environment where we were counseling families and working with grief, and you know, so you're so rounded. And in terms of going from trading to being involved with the community and hugging up folks and so forth, and then my father with his program Let's Go Somewhere with Johnny Tudor, and I was tagging along and so forth, and seeing how you relate to people. I mean, it gave me a tremendous advantage over many Barbadians. And of course then, when I went into government and spent some time in tourism, I would have done over 250 odd promotions on behalf of Barbados all over the world. So I developed a passion and understanding of the facilities that we have in Barbados, what we offer as a product to the international world. And of course, having gone all across Germany, all across Europe, all across the United States, all 52 states, all across South America, all across the African continent, Indian Ocean, New Zealand, Australia, promoting Barbados, you know, you have this feeling that the world is yours, you know, and I wish every Barbadian could have enjoyed the travel that I certainly enjoyed. Working with Air Canada at the airport, I would have had free travel, and I took advantage of that. Being in government, I would have traveled extensively, and then in my own private life, I would have traveled extensively, learning and being involved and so on. So to switch from one to the other, you know, really became a very natural thing to me. And I really wish that a lot of people could be exposed to the extent that I did.
As Joseph Tudor, just the quiet individual, what do you do for enjoyment?
You know, basically in talking to you, you get the impression that all they do is work, which is true. But I love horses, and I enjoy shooting. I was a marksman, a well-trained marksman, and I won the Martinez shoot in Barbados in 1966 and 1967, and that was an amazing achievement. I got 98 out of 100, and 1 year and 99 out of 100, and the very last shot that I fired on both occasions just slightly missed the post. But in each of those, on both of those occasions, I always scored a positive shooting. And as a Commonwealthian, that was difficult because you were competing against the Trinidad, the Arizonians and the guys from Lodge, and they were considered to be the top shots. So a Commonwealthian couldn't beat them. So I always remember Dr. Cook in there, no doctor, when he got the result, he said, no, it is true, it's poetry. Where has he come from? Who has taught him to shoot like this? And if I use that as an example, I mean, relaxation shooting, I played lawn tennis, and I had the opportunity to play lawn tennis with Prince Charles. I got my house in 1970. That was quite an event because Prince Charles is an amazing individual, but we played at Government House, and after he was very stiff and he really didn't hit the ball very well. So, and at the time I was born in Government Hill, and there was a lawn tennis court at my home, literally the bedroom where I was born. There's a lawn tennis court right below where I was born. So I grew up playing lawn tennis, and that I did that for many years to relax. But I must tell you that the evening when Prince Charles had dinner with me after the tennis game, we had a very interesting conversation. He said to me at the dinner table, we were sitting next to each other, he said, now John, tell me, what do you do? Now obviously I had done a lot, but at that time I was working with Air Canada at the airport. So I said to him, but I've just started to work with Air Canada at the airport, you know. He said, what do you do there? So I explained to him that we do weight and balance, we take device on off the grass, we check in passengers and so forth, right? So he said, John, is it lucrative? So I never heard the word lucrative. Barbados, we don't really use that kind of language. He said, is it lucrative? So I said to him, no, they're runaway planes. So he said, what? I said, no, they're runaway planes. So I actually thought that the plane was very sheltered and had not ventured to know that Air Canada's planes were runaway. You know, so I just heard this tip, lucrative, and I thought it was pain. You know, so it was only sometime after that I realized that it was quite funny. But I've never forgiven him, actually. And I do recall some years later in 1992 when I served as a member of the Commonwealth Parliament of the Commonwealth. We were introduced to Her Majesty the Queen at Buckingham Palace, and a group of us who were on the executive committee were standing in line waiting to meet Her Majesty. And I saw her looking at me all the time, right? And when she approached me, she saw my name. She says, "You are Tudor." And I said, "Yes, ma'am." So for a short moment, I wondered if a child had told her about Tudor. This child came from Barbados. I related the story to her. So she said to me, "Oh, I know that the Tudors are very, very, very famous in Barbados and the Caribbean. And you must be one of these very famous Tudors from the Caribbean." She said, "I know Sir James Tudor very well, a wonderful man and a great diplomat. And I certainly hope that you emulate him because he was a good man. And I certainly hope that you will follow in his footsteps. But I see you're well on your way to following him in your footsteps of serving the people of the Caribbean." And that was a wonderful conversation I had with her. Very wonderful conversation.
Of all the hats you wear, Joseph, which one appeals to you the most?
Well, I think being a father, to be quite honest with you, I absolutely adore my children, and especially my daughters. You know, in this life, you would say that you've had some relationships with ladies, and I have given back to the world. I have given back 3 beautiful daughters to the world. You know, so I would say that I really have the passion for my children. I absolutely adore them. And maybe in terms of working, I find myself wanting to go back in history with my children, to let them understand that I came up with a top class life. I had the best of everything. I mean, a beautiful home environment where when 7 o'clock on evenings there was a bell that was rung and everybody assembled for prayers and dinner. I understood what it was to have a nanny, to be dressed in your white pants and white shirt and a tie, a bow tie for dinner. You had to be dressed. And so I grew up in fine privilege. And I did. But I also grew up in the Ivy, where what mattered most to me was antiques and boy 40. Because even though we lived in the house, the mansion house in Gum Hill, my comfort was in boy 40 or in antiques bed. Antiques lived in a very small channel house, and when they were looking for me at home, I was sleeping next to antiques, who up to this day, she was my mother. I mean, I just would never comfort her unless I was laying under her bosom. And so you have to understand that my roots are embedded in the Ivy, in the poor and depressed areas of the Ivy. That's where I was in totally comfortable. I remember the big toilets. I remember all of them. And I would leave a water toilet to just enjoy the smell of those of the toilet. You know, but that to me is what Barbados was about. Not being arrogant and not being about having a humble and going through all of the experiences to become a person of influence who can get things done to help others. And that really characterizes my life.
Where do you go from here?
At present, I have seen life on both sides of the political thing. And to me, I find that in trying to, in politics, in Barbados, in trying to score points. In fact, politics worldwide, there's always this issue of trying to score points against your opponent. Because we are not in a democracy. People compete. And I actually prefer a democracy rather than have a state like we had in the Cold War, where state governments dictated and commanded what they had to reach out to you and so forth as people. Democracy means that people compete. And you say things for one-upmanship and two-upmanship and things like that. I really wish that we could find a model that speaks about the interests of people in reality. And you know, and I hope one day that we could have a parliament that is elected by the people, and then the parliament picks a leader, and then determines who, without having political parties, who are the best of that crowd to serve and to make decisions in the interest of the people. Now, it is a very difficult equation, but I'm basically saying that I get frustrated by the one-upmanship and the gimpmanship that sometimes takes place in politics, right? I absolutely adore Barack Obama. I think that he is, in my lifetime, the greatest human that has ever walked this earth. Just like Usain Bolt in Jamaica. I think that these guys have demonstrated what it is to be above and beyond the average individual. He brings a respect to life that no other president or individual has ever brought to bear. And that is because I spoke in terms of the colonial domination. I spoke in terms of the fact that black people were deprived. But yet, Obama is trying to bring a neutral respect for people of all walks of life. You're not the conservatives who couldn't care less, as in this recent election where Governor Romney wants to disregard so many other individuals that not his cup of tea. Basically. But here's Barack Obama, not only dealing with Americans, but trying to embrace every single religion he was to equalize. And that's what I think God wanted. Because in the Bible it speaks in terms of we are our brothers keepers. So, you know, and if that is true, why is this viciousness against each other in a democracy? Why can't you live in harmony? Because the world is going to end up as a very mixed race. And that would give me pleasure, because I think we will be able to sleep and say that we are not, because of our color, because we are a woman, or a disabled person, or whatever, that anybody is any better than anyone else. And I think that these are the goals that we have to set for ourselves. Of course, you know that I spend a lot of time working with the members of the disabled community. I am the secretary to 20 disabled organizations in Barbados and the president of the Center for Children that are slow and learning. And these are the things that I see the rest of my life pleading and working under the guidance of presidents like Barack Obama to be honest with the people. Be honest whether it is in Barbados or in Canada or in the United States or Europe. Just be honest and stop the one-upmanship and the command and I'm in charge. I think that I would die a very, very happy man, and I would sleep for a million years knowing that this world was going different things.
Well, it has been a very rewarding experience then in your company, Joseph. I have learned so much. You're very warm and welcoming. Like I said before, you were born and you are still wearing so many hats. It goes to show, without even doing another interview, that entrepreneurship is really the way to go. And I would like to thank you for sharing this time with me. And wish you continued success in everything that you do.
Well, I do wish for the country that we do have success and that the people will enjoy this.
Well, it has been my pleasure, and thank you very much, Joseph.
Okay, my dear. God bless you.
And you too, thank you.
Carry Voice Radio.
Believe it.